Saintess summons skeletons. By Morn. Chapter 521, Pocket-Sized Meat Grinder. The group entered the jungle at the first rays of dawn. The vegetation here was a lot denser than in the volcanic jungles north of Skirich and Savoln, the canopy only letting rare streams of light shine through here and there. There were vines and colorful exotic plants and flowers growing everywhere one looked. Iwara gave Parath directions, who slowly cleared a path with his machete of light, and at the same time, he explained some of the peculiar rules those who entered this place had to abide by, while the whole night had been spent only going over how to reach Sorrow's palace and what to do when they encountered Okiarans. We have to clear the path like this to scare off the Webbers, he explained. They are giant crawling arachnids with advanced camouflage magic. Even with good mana senses, they are extremely hard to detect. Their presence is what makes flying here dangerous, as it makes you an easy target for their web spit attacks. The Webbers in themselves are generally not too strong, but the web they spit is hard to get out of, even for people of our level. Thankfully, they only hide in the bushes, and if we clear them they will keep their distance. Cynthia looked back. The group had only gone a few hundred meters from the encampment, yet it was already no longer visible. The plants are already regrowing where we cut them down, she noticed with an uneasy voice. Iwara turned around, walking backwards to face the group as he spoke. Such is the way of the jungle. Now that we have entered, we cannot stop. We must always press on. How about our other movement options? Sofia asked, looking at the canopy. Flying above the trees is suicidal, Iwara explained. Steer away from any natural clearing in the canopy. We must be thankful for the tree's protection, for the monsters living above are much more dangerous than the monsters living below. Teleportation is fine in battle, but generally you want to avoid it because of the Webbers. And similarly, going through the spiritual realm would be fine if not for the risk of encountering Okiarans. Walking is slow, but it sure sounds like the safest option, Everell commented, and also, I have to warn you all not to count on me too much when it comes to fighting. Not the best environment for Sunless? Sofia asked. No. It's my class. It is good for defending a place, not so much for exploration. I can defend myself, but I'll be weakened. That's it. Good enough, Sofia concluded. I'd say it's best if you and Cynthia have each other's back, and Iwara and Parath can be our defense team. I have more than enough attack power for all of us. In fact, as long as we're not running into a monster above level 300, Bookie alone should be able to handle even a swarm. That. There are not many skeletons suited for the jungle, Bookie lamented, from the side. He walked holding Sofia's hand. I'm sure the Chimera would feel right at home, Sofia reassured him, but even without going there, how about summoning the Fae and Crowy for a start? Now? Yeah, let's have the Fae be our rear guard instead of Everell. Crowy can stay on my shoulder as usual. The group walked in an almost straight line for the best part of 3 hours without encountering anything more dangerous than a mosquito, which felt quite strange, as even the woods behind the orphanage's Skirich weren't that safe in comparison, with wolves and boars roaming around, which Sofia had to be extra careful to avoid whenever she went for her nightly expeditions to try to summon a skeleton. Iwara had warned them, however, that this was because weak monsters simply could not survive here. Even the most modest of the jungle monsters were above level 200. Sofia finally noticed something. Mana movements 200 meters to our left. They're keeping their distance for now, but moving in the same direction as we are, she whispered to the group. I'd say around 10 to 12 creatures. On the ground or going from vines to vines? Iwara asked as he gave a hand sign for everyone to stop. Ground. They also just stopped moving. Iwara breathed a sigh of relief. Good. Just a pack of blood tigers. They will come toward us eventually. Miss Cynthia is the only one with blood here, we only need protect her, and the beasts themselves are of little trouble. Should I just send the fairy? Sofia asked him. That might be the best way, yes, Iwara confirmed. Sofia raised her left hand. The fairy, who had been flying close to the ground behind the group until now, darted up to Sofia's hand without a sound, softly landing on her palm. Sofia quickly tied a tiny bone token onto the fairy's ribcage, and then gave the order. The fairy turned invisible, and left Sofia's hand as she connected her vision to the token. Sofia heard the pained howls and screeches of rage of the creatures before she could even see them. The Fae was like an invisible lightning bolt. Sofia's vision was a blur, as the fairy flew at breakneck speed, constantly and abruptly changing direction without any regard for the conservation of momentum. Sofia could barely get a glimpse of the horse-sized blood-red beasts that looked like giant cats with prominent fangs before were riddled by fairy-sized holes, exploding in a shower of blood and gore. 8 seconds. That was all it took. The Middenissite fairy landed on Sofia's palm again, its invisibility wearing off, blood dripping from its blue bones. It cleaned the gore between its tiny claws by rubbing them together. You have defeated Blood Tiger, leave 230. You have defeated Blood Tiger, leave 221. You have defeated Blood Tiger, leave 218. You have defeated Blood Tiger, leave 244. You have defeated Blood Tiger, leave 212. You have defeated Blood Tiger, leave 242. You have defeated Blood Tiger, leave 210. You have defeated Blood Tiger, leave 208. You have defeated Blood Tiger, leave 202. You have defeated Blood Tiger, leave 234. You have defeated Blood Tiger, leave 239. Sofia cut the connection to the bone token, dizzy from the hyperspeed massacre she had just witnessed. She blinked as she looked at the fairy, then at Bookie. You know. I think it's really a good thing that we only summoned it when Aredes was there. And that its original soul is gone. Bookie silently and furiously nodded in approval. The rest of the group looked at Sofia in incomprehension, except for Iwarat. All dead, he asked. 11 blood tigers, Sofia answered, obliterated. Everly's eye pendant narrowed. What? They. Fuck. I want a fairy sunless now. About an hour later, Iwarat stopped the group once again, and produced a small pendant out of his storage ring. Sofia instantly felt a connection to the item, and was able to guess what it was. Sorrow's divine item, the location of which had been Iwarat's reward for completing Sun's quest. The Locket of Lost Souls. Iwarat opened the locket, and the temperature around him dropped suddenly, some of the jungle plants even starting to freeze over. He looked around, seemingly following with his gaze something Sofia couldn't see, then he quickly closed the locket and stored it back. We must go fast, follow me, he then said, rushing in front of Perith through the jungle's high bushes. The group quickly ran after him. So whatever is going on, the Webbers are the lesser danger. Sofia analyzed as she scanned the jungle all around with her mana senses and the heat visualization function of her magic eye. I don't see anything. We draw close to the first obelisks of sorrow, Iwarat explained as ran amidst the jungle's tall trees. The merciful mother's relic bestowed unto me the direction. However, the Okiarans are sure to notice. Prepare for battle, we will make a stand at the obelisk, he warned everyone. Bookie couldn't keep up with the pace, so Sofia grabbed and carried him. Be ready to summon the snake. We might also need the high priest, but only summon him if Cynthia is in danger, she told him as she ran. Sofia heard a violent boom coming from ahead. A skull-sized ball of sticky white web had just hit one of Iwarat's monoweave shields head-on like a cannonball, the sign that he had stepped too close to a Webber. Iwarat counterattacked by throwing a handful of yellow and black powder in the direction the ball had come from without even stopping to aim, and the powder mix almost instantly exploded, engulfing that part of the jungle in a bright ball of orange fire. Sofia's priority as she ran was to ensure Cynthia's safety. She knew Iwarat, Everell, and herself could all survive a surprise attack, but the streamer orc could not. Sofia had sent the fairy to perch on top of the girl's head, with the order to destroy any creature that would come close. Shadows started rising in the jungle around the group as they continued their mad rush. Some were Everly's sunless drones, but some were not. Finally, Sofia saw a giant pillar of black stone between the trees in the distance. She summoned the skull choir, with as many destroyer skulls she could afford, started channeling the graveyard, and gave Bookie the order to unleash the snake. So these are the Okiarans. Chapter 522, Playing in the Mud. The Okiarans looked strange, like 3 meters tall, dried-up humans with dark blue skin. They wore primitive clothing made of woven plant fibers decorated with sheets of elastic tree bark, and wielded all sorts of primitive-looking weapons of sticks and stones. They appeared around the group one by one. They did not walk, only teleporting from one point to another. Disturbingly, some of them were smaller with a slightly bigger head. The children, as Iwarat had called them. Without hesitation, Perith was first to engage. Wielding a spear, he stabbed at the large head of one of the short Okiarans, but it teleported away. Perith's spear of light extended, and it pierced the torso of another Okiaran standing further away, who was late to react to the surprise attack. Perith pulled on his spear, bringing the blue creature close, and, covering his fist with Ramana, punched its disturbing face, bursting the Okiaran's skull open like an overripe fruit. The creature fell, limp, its body turning into a pile of sloshing wet mud. Whoa, even the clothes are actually made of dirt. You have defeated damned Okiaran, leave 212. Do not be fooled, they are not people, Iwara had warned the group before entering the jungle. Okiarans were a type of ghost creature, but they lived in huts, and mimicked a primitive tribal society, going as far as making grotesque facsimile bodies out of dirt. All to gain a psychological advantage over their main prey, anyone with a soul. As living souls without a body, Okiarans were thus undead creatures, which meant that they would hesitate to attack Sofia, due to Rune-forged Overlord's effects, but also that Paratha's attacks dealt quadrupled damage to them. Sofia was of half a mind to try the old version of Lead the Dead imbued in her Mithrium ring, but the range was much shorter than the actually skill, and it would hardly work on the real threats over level 250, so she had just lent it to Cynthia as a means to defend herself if needed. The Skull Choir's destroyer form could not really harm the ghosts, so their purpose was to clear out the jungle plants and bushes near the obelisk as the group fought, to give them a clear view of the battlefield. Bookie summoned the giant pearled snake, and the rest of the group stood near the obelisk as Parath, the snake, the fairy, and hundred of sunless drones culled the hordes of Okiarans teleporting in, the graveyard skeletons grabbing the creatures' ankles and preventing them from teleporting away. The Okiarans mainly attacked by way of spiritual bursts, invisible to the naked eye in the physical plane, but Iwara expertly blocked them all with his flying shields of woven mana. He could expertly and effortlessly predict the Okiarans' attack patterns, a testament to how long he had spent fighting them while Sofia had been taking a year off to be a teacher. After a few minutes of continued assault, and hundreds of Okiarans dead, the surroundings of the obelisk was entirely covered in wet mud, and the attack suddenly stopped. Thanks to Iwara's briefing, everyone knew what was coming, but he reminded them of it either way. The chief is on his way, hold fast, only stop when we have the soul stone, he announced, getting his shields back into position around the group. The mud piles left on the jungle ground started gathering together as if attracted by an invisible force, and in just a few seconds, took the form of a giant Okiaran, its head hidden in the canopy of leaves above. Its body squished together to walk through the trees and come to the group. Sofia recalled her skeletons, putting them all, even Parath, in her bone storage. She also dismissed the choir. The reason was simple, they were useless against the chief, whose attacks could dislodge the soul. It was a painful but temporary setback for a regular person, but more akin to a forceful unsummoning for a skeleton or Everly's Sunless. Still, she kept the graveyard skeletons around, having one of them come grab her ankles to send her halfway into the spiritual plane. Iwara stepped up to the fight, covering his body in mana. He grew in size until he was almost as tall as the Okiaran chief, and his mana took the appearance of a ghostly bear overlapping over his black body. The Okiaran charged and Iwara met him with his bare claws. Gripping each other, the two giants started to brawl. Everell summoned her triplet Sunless Witches, and they started bombarding the Okiaran chief with elemental attacks along with Cynthia, who threw handfuls of ghostly mana coins at the creature every time she found an opening. Meanwhile, Sofia's vision was in the spiritual plane. She watched the Okiaran's bulging, mushroom-like soul, it had links that extended far in multiple directions, and controlled the mud puppet against Iwara while it also prepared soul attacks. Come and try. When the creature launched its first attack, targeting the Sunless Witches, Sofia reacted instantly. The graveyard skeleton let her go, and she jumped in front of the Sunless, negating the attack with heat death before it could reach her, another graveyard skeleton grabbing her ankle right away. Easy. It's taking serious damage already. Sofia blocked a few more attacks aimed at Everell and Cynthia and herself, and the blue-skinned mud giant finally tumbled. Iwara pounced, and, while it maintained the creature on the ground, channeled a strange skill. Mana tendrils grabbed onto the Okiaran's soul, pumping it full of mana until it burst. With her vision of the spiritual realm, Sofia saw one of the links connected with the Okiaran chief's soul break to absorb the shock. Its body returned to mud, before it reformed on another side of the obelisk. Iwara once again charged at the giant, holding it back with his bare form, and the same fight played out a second time in an almost identical manner. Finally, when all the soul links connected to the Okiaran chief were down, Sofia was able to see a bright dot of light forming inside of his spirit body. She brought the fairy out of the bone storage. Get it? The fairy disappeared for a second, her departure causing a loud bang, and she came back with mud-stained bones, presenting Sofia with an off-white stone the size of a fist. You have defeated Turgescent Soul Okiaran, leave 293. The giant of mud crumbled one last time, the remnants of his body splattering on the jungle ground. Cynthia wiped the sweat off of her brows. Finally over. She's almost out of mana. But she went up a level, also. Nice. A brilliant execution, Iwara exclaimed as he shrunk back to his regular size and started walking back up to the obelisk. These used to be a mighty struggle to fend off alone. I am glad to have you ladies come along this time. Now we only need insert the soul stone into Sorrow's first obelisk. Quickly finding a hole near the obelisk's base, Sofia inserted the Okiaran's soul stone. Reminds me of the second trial with the orb floor. The soul stone rolled into the black pillar, which started to shake. It produced an ear-piercing cry as it lifted itself from the ground, and shot up through the jungle's canopy, leaving a hole in its wake which allowed sunlight to flood in. Iwara stood in the light and held up the open locket. A beam of light descended from above. It struck the locket before being reflected toward another direction. The shriek of the obelisk in the sky instantly stopped the moment Iwara closed the locket and the beam of light disappeared. That is one done, 3 more to go, Iwara announced as he tied the locket around his neck. We follow the light? Everell asked. Indeed. How cliché. This is really just like a secret quest. Exciting, she enthusiastically continued, before she dismissed her sunless witch's homunculi with a pat on the head each. Good job girls, I'll call you back for the next one. Are there stronger Okiarans? Sofia asked, curious since she felt that she could easily handle multiple of these turgescent soul ones by herself if needed. Some should be up to level 380, or around there, probably none at 400, Iwara answered, himself uncertain. They are best avoided, but should we encounter one, it might actually be safer for 3 of us to flee and for you or I to handle it alone, he finally concluded. That is not the answer I expected, Sofia said. Ahaha. But it is undoubtedly the best course of action. These higher Okiarans should be able to use our souls as a means to attack. While it is hard to forcibly have one's soul self-harm even under direct mind control, using someone's soul to harm their allies is not. These ladies would be particularly vulnerable, as they lack proper soul protection skills as of yet. Everell shook her head and started walking in the direction the light beam had shown. Seriously Iwa, you need to stop calling me a lady, it just feels weird. Especially when I look like this, she sighed as she walked away. Iwara was lost for words, and Perith appeared near him, his skeletal hand giving the shade a pat on the shoulder. Chapter 523, A Calamitous DEI. With Iwara's guidance and the group's overall power, it was not such an arduous task to find and activate the 4 obelisks. Even when 4 Okiaran chiefs showed up together as they neared the last one, they were dealt with cleanly. These mud ghosts were simply not strong enough to push them to their limit. After the 4th obelisk activated, the ground shook, and Sorrow's giant palace appeared from underground, rising to the surface and toppling over large parts of the jungle. Iwara had not predicted, however, that 3 gigantic monsters would appear with it. The group was split up as they fled. Sofia was with Iwara, hiding under a rotten log, while Perith was with Everell and Cynthia. How is it? Iwara whispered as he saw Sofia's eyes regain their color. They have it better than us. The flying serpent is busy eating the jungle's flying monsters, so they are slowly making their way to the temple, Sofia explained, having just observed the situation through Perith's eyes. Good. Unfortunately they will not be able to enter without one of us, but they should still be safer if they can hide near the entry. Iwara stopped midway as the monster he and Sofia were hiding from had suddenly stopped moving. No way. There's no way it could hear it with how noisy the jungle is. The giant monster whose bloated green feet were the only thing that one could see had stopped walking through the jungle. The tree's canopy only reached up to its ankles, and the entire jungle shook from every step it took. Suppressing their mana, Sofia and Iwara held their breath, which was easy as neither of them needed to breathe, and after a few seconds, the monster started walking again, slowly getting further from them. The issue, though, was that it was still in the path between them and the palace. If only I hadn't changed my title to Olympian earlier, I could just use Master Thief now. Could you reach the palace without me? Sofia asked. Since Iwara was a shade, he could move swiftly and discreetly through the shadows, and likely avoid catching the green monster's attention. Like this? Probably not, this monster has keen senses. If he were to be focused on you, then without a doubt, he answered without hesitation, but I am not leaving you here. Entering the place without you is pointless to begin with. We must simply bide our time. That is only Sorrow's first test. These monsters are Sorrow's doing. Sofia asked back, whispering loudly. Certainly, yes. The Okiarans too. Though I cannot be certain, as this place predates even my previous life, but our merciful mother is not one to leave her legacy unprotected, Iwara explained with excitement in his voice. The green monster stopped in its tracks again, so the duo also stopped making any sound. Sofia took the opportunity to check on Parath. The serpent is still busy. But this is getting worrying. Where is the damn lion? Out of the 3 creatures who had come from beneath, Parath's group had been chased by the giant flying serpent, while Sofia and Iwara were still being looked for by the green-skinned giant. They had originally been split up like this to deal with the Okiarans, with Sofia and Iwara slowly whittling down the 4 chiefs while the others managed the continuous waves of lesser Okiarans that hadn't stopped even after Sofia inserted the 4 soul stones into the last obelisk. This left the 3rd creature, a tall red stone lion, completely unaccounted for. It had gone into another direction right from the moment it emerged from the ground with the palace, as if attracted by someone else. This was worrying for several reasons, but Sofia was mostly afraid that it would return, as it would make the situation much worse. When the green giant started walking again, producing tremendous noise and tremors with each step, Sofia prepared herself. She had a bad feeling about the red lion going missing, so she wished to reunite with the others as soon as possible. Start going without me, I'll use my signature skill as a distraction, and join you soon, she told Iwara. That might work, he approved. I fear this will not buy you much time, but it shall suffice. We only need enter the palace and we should be safe. If you do not make it, exchange places with me. Are you crazy, Iwa? You've seen how fast it caught up when you tried to teleport before. I escaped it once, I can do it again. Besides, you are the one taking the most risks right now. Sofia glanced at the description of her signature skill. Awakening of the 5 calamities, / ultimate rank signature skill / The Saintess has created yet another tool for sorrowful destruction. Channel any amount of mana over 100000 to invoke one of 5 elemental skeleton destroyers hereby known as the 5 calamities. You may invoke 1 additional calamity for each time you have died during the current battle. Each calamity is a singular and unique invocation. Calamities disappear when they run out of mana. Cooldown, 1 month per invoked calamity. Available calamities. Calamity of blood. Calamity of bones. Calamity of spirits. Calamity of plasma. Calamity of light. She knew it by heart already, having read it hundreds of times, yet never using it so far. How much mana should she use? What calamity should she summon? How big were they? How strong? How long did they last? She had no clue, but it was time to find out. I need to keep some reserves. 4 million should be enough to make it last a while, right? The question is, which one? If I want a big distraction, plasma would probably be the bigger mess in a jungle. Has to be. Iwara ripped out a bead bracelet hanging from one of his belts, scattering the colorful beads around Sofia in the jungle mud. These will hide the mana from your channeling, but not for long. The instant they turn black the monster will be onto you, I will go right before then. I don't expect the channeling to be too long, but that will be helpful. You might just make it to the palace at the same time as the others. I'll be there soon. Channeling now. Sofia willed to activate the awakening of the 5 calamities. She felt her mana heart slowly start to spin inside her, gathering the mana from all around her body. Closing her eyes to focus, she guided most of her mana toward her heart. It was getting siphoned into a wild vortex that she was uncertain if she could even stop. The green-skinned giant howled, destroying the jungle in its wake. It ran toward Sofia. She opened her eyes, the beads were already black, and Iwara was nowhere to be seen. The giant approached, but after about 8 seconds of channeling, it was time. Sofia forcefully stopped her mana heart's rotations. You have invoked Amaziok, Calamity of Plasma. Remaining lifetime, 40s. Sofia barely got time to see the system windows pop up before her mana exploded in a blinding white shockwave. Her mana escaped in a painful and overwhelming way. She felt compelled to scream at the sky as a bundle of plasma escaped her body, escaping like a reverse lightning storm aimed at the heavens. The destroyer skeleton awakened, its bones of crackling plasma like a million compressed lightning bolts. The calamity was a genuine monster just as massive and fast as the original destroyer Sofia had fought, standing grand and defiant above the jungle, rising against the charging green-skinned giant. The jungle was lit on fire by the massive skeleton, turning the muddy and damp place into a fiery hell in seconds. the cries of its fleeing inhabitants drowned out by the unending rumbling of the undead thunderstorm. Sofia forgot what she was even supposed to be doing, entranced by the majestic skeleton she had just summoned. She watched as it clashed head-on with the green giant, its thousands of legs as many weapons to deliver thunderous blows. The green giant was wounded by the calamity's initial assault, but it struck back with a simple punch. Remaining lifetime, 34s. Remaining lifetime, 12s. Crap. Seeing her summon almost die in one punch snapped Sofia out of it, and she finally used this chance as the giant was distracted to fly up above the canopy and straight toward Paritha's location. With a quick look around, she saw the red lion attack with a mana-charged swipe in the distance, decimating a large part of the jungle, but couldn't see what it was fighting. Sorrow's palace stood like a colossal pyramid in the middle of the three giant monsters. Judging from Parith and Iwara's position, the entrance was at the very top. Now without the risk of being caught, Sofia closed the distance in seconds, leaving her raging calamity behind. The calamity of plasma ran out of lifetime, it exploded in a violent lightning storm as it died, bringing even more chaos to the jungle. Amaziok has returned to its resting place. I summoned that. Sofia thought in disbelief as she landed near the others. Everyone was unscathed. I cannot open the doors. Iwara warned Sofia, you should be able to, there is no time to lose, come. He stood near ornate double doors with engravings that reminded Sofia of the doors to Areti's castle. On the doors, there were no handles, only two familiar-looking handprints. Ones of rugged hands with pointy claws. Sofia instantly understood why Iwara couldn't open them. As fast as she could, she unsummoned her armor and took off her dragon-scale armguard, leaving only Aphinaretha's glove on. She placed her hands on the handprints. Already, she could hear the footsteps of the green giant coming after her now that the calamity had disappeared. Sofia forcefully discharged all that was left of her mana, catching her glowing heart in her mouth without even using her hands. She pushed forward as she transformed, her muscles bulging under the effort, her feet sliding on the stone floor of Sorrow's palace wetted by the rain. Come on! The doors resisted, barely moving. Everyone else came to help push Sofia from behind, even Bookie popped out of nowhere and helped give even a tiny bit of strength. Finally, Sofia could feel the divine essence within her take life, and the doors started to open. As the green giant drew dangerously close, the doors finally flew open all at once, sending Sofia and the others tumbling down dark and dusty stairs just as the shockwave of the giant's punch shook the air above them, stopped by a mysterious force an instant before it could hit the palace. You have entered the dungeon, Palace of the Past, Restricted. Chapter 525, Palace Raiders. No, you have not missed a chapter, the chapter numbering is just ass. We literally had a chapter called Botched Chapter Order a few days ago, what did you expect? Parith used Sofia's storage to teleport around the group as they fell and caught everyone before they could stumble any further down the stairs. Ah, thank you, Sofia thanked him before she quickly walked back up as everyone else was busy dusting themselves. The green giant had turned away and was already leaving, which was actually slightly annoying. Couldn't this thing at least guard the entrance? She grabbed the open doors, but they wouldn't even begin to move. Annoying. I don't like this. Iwara was first to climb back up too, gliding along the stairs in his shadow form. He popped out of it right next to Sofia. You would lock us in? He asked. I wanted to, but it looks like I cannot. Thing is, I am pretty sure the red lion was fighting someone else. Not a monster. I would rather not have to deal with a surprise guest. Especially not one who can fight back against these things. We cannot seal back the palace, Iwara started, but if there is someone waiting to enter after us, we are fortunate that you noticed. If I am to be honest, I expected the palace's emergence to attract some attention anyway, just not so early. It matters little, as only Sorrow's kin may wield her artifacts. Let us err on the side of caution, however, and hide a few traps near the entrance. Will a few traps be of any help if they can fight back the things outside? Cynthia asked after climbing up the stairs with Parith and Everell. Iwara looked outside, these guardians. To speak in the system's terms, feel like they should be around level 400. Perhaps a bit lower. So slightly weaker than baby dragons. If they were fighting seriously. Clearly they are holding back in some way. I lack the mana to kill such an opponent with my traps, but certainly impairing their movement and alerting us to their presence is in my capabilities. Besides, divine sanctuaries like this one are not welcoming to uninvited intruders. Let us hope that there isn't anything of that level inside, Everell chimed in, traps it is, then. I believe any ordeal we are about to face should have a reasonable way to be dealt with by sorrow's apostle, no matter the level, Iwara explained, and yes, traps. I shall take care of this matter and join you when it is done. You must go ahead and find the artifact, Lady Sofia. Do not let this hold you back, Iwara explained, already starting to bring an assortment of exotic plants and rocks from his multiple storage rings. When Iwara joined the others down the long stairs, he found them waiting for him in a room with bone-covered walls. I'm making a mold of the fresco from this room, Sofia explained. We couldn't choose which path to take without you, since you have the locket it might be easy. I am afraid that the locket is of no help here, Iwara answered, as he examined the 3 closed doors in the room, one on each side except the one with the stairs. Ah, that would make things a bit more complex. Everyone is saying they can't help because sorrow is watching, Cynthia said from the side. Hints in the fresco seem to point to the doors other than the one we choose being condemned, Sofia continued to explain for Iwara, but it's not actually helping choose one. This place is meant both to protect the artifact and to judge whether you are worthy of wielding it, Iwara said, designed by the Merciful Mother's followers of old. There must be a hint somewhere. Saying this, he tried to activate the locket despite saying previously that it wouldn't help. Only to shake his head as the artifact was unresponsive. The proper term for these wall decorations is sunken relief, I should add. These used to be very popular in my time. Sofia stored the remaining bones on the walls to uncover the entire sculpted reliefs for Iwara to see, herself looking for something she might have missed. There must be something I'm not seeing. But there is nothing to differentiate the doors from one another except the wall they are on. Maybe something to do with the cardinal directions? I think I have a compass stored somewhere. Aw crap! My demon form is about to run out, Sofia warned the others. If it's needed to progress further, we might be stuck for half an hour. So long as the person outside does not interfere, we should not be pressed for time, Iwara reassured her. Let us closely examine these sunken reliefs. Since they hold one hint for the doors, I suspect they should hold the entire solution. Sofia braced for her transformation to end and the following weakened state to ensue, but as her internal clock reached 5 minutes, nothing happened. Did I lose track of the time? Sofia turned to Perith. How long has it been? Since Perith could not exactly answer more precisely than with his fingers, Bookie appeared to answer for him. 5 minutes and 12 seconds, he happily informed her, covered in his new luxurious black attire with red and blue metallic highlights and decorations that made him look like a young skeletal prince. Thanks Bookie. So I was not counting wrong. Never mind everyone, my transformation isn't running out here, it seems. That's quite nice, actually. Let me try to tone down the lights, though, it's a bit too much in such a restricted space. While Sofia was busy fiddling with VPPV to alter her Lumion lights, Cynthia caught everyone's attention. The viewers have something to say, just give me a second to translate. They all started writing in Orcish, I don't know why. Everyone intently listened as Cynthia read from her invisible chat window, an history lesson. The negative gods were to decide on a name for themselves. And they chose the obscured. Ah, I guess this translates better to recessed, Cynthia interrupted herself, taking after the statues of gods that humans would often place in a recess of temple walls. They felt it in accordance with their philosophy, to watch mortals from their peaceful dark corner, taking care not to cause too much interference in their fragile lives. So they are helping after all. It appears that your presence here will indeed be invaluable, Lady Cynthia, Iwara said, moments before getting punched in the gut by Everell. Damnable flirt, she complained jokingly. I only have eyes for you, Eve, Iwara retorted. I'm the only one with eyes in this couple, Everell answered before she turned her attention back to the murals, which Sofia was already intently observing once more. I hope you don't mind the small talk, Sofia. Hey? Are you kidding? This is great. Reminds me of when I was going around with Alith. These days I'm mostly alone with Bookie and Perith. They're nice but it's not quite the same, Sofia answered, her eyes scanning through the many intricate details of the sculpted murals, more like family than friends. This is good for a change. And I get pretty excited at the mere thought of exploring this place, honestly. You could leave all the fights and riddles like this one to me and I'd still be happy just to have you all around. Speaking of which, Sofia's clawed fingers caressed the stone surface of the walls, reaching a part of the sunken relief that depicted a stylized grand place of some sort in which many faceless figures danced. A few of these figures were slightly hidden in the background, barely sculpted out of the stone. Sofia's nails traced their contours one by one, until they stopped on one particular figure. The barely visible back-facing silhouette of a kneeling woman. "Found you, Sorrow." Probing the wall behind the sculpted woman with her mana senses, Sofia pained to see anything. The entire palace seemed to hinder her senses to what was physically visible, yet, by focusing her mana perception on this precise emplacement, she felt a faint something. Like a small hook that her senses could somewhat latch onto. Pulling her mana senses back, Sofia hoped to pull on that thin mana hook, and the previously brightly lit room became dark. "I did something," Sofia told the others. "You found the correct door, I'd say," Everell commented, as a thin ray of light coming from a previously non-existent hole in the ceiling drew the shape of a fourth door on the floor. "The first one was on us, the rest is up to you," Cynthia read out loud. "What now, do we break the floor?" "Let me see," Sofia said. "I can't get through any of the walls here with the graveyard skeletons, but I've not tried this corner of the floor." Chapter 526, Let Go. Sofia walked on the floor where the light drew a door, then back, then on it again. "The floor is definitely hollow there. I still can't get through or feel anything beyond my footsteps sound different." "Then breaking through is likely the actual solution," Everell commented. "Can I try something?" "Go ahead." Everell nodded and summoned her tiny sunless architect that looked like a stick figure with a white dot on its torso. She pointed at the door Sofia was standing on. "Help us out, Bob, can you make a hole there?" "Bob?" Sofia repeated as she stepped back to let the sunless do its thing. "I have 3 architects. They're all named Bob. Don't ask." All right." Bob approached the spot and kneeled down to touch the floor with the stubby end of its tiny forearms. With a sound akin to a shattering pot, a circle appeared on the bricks making up the floor where the sunless was. It was a clean circular cut. The floor inside the circle prompt fell, the small architect with it, letting out a cute high-pitched cry. Sofia and Cynthia hurriedly went to look into the hole. It was pitch black, but Sofia could see that it was about 50 meters deep, with the sunless rapidly falling down. "Is he fine?" Cynthia asked, seeing that Everell seemed not to care about the sunless. "Bob's level 299, he's a bit stupid but it would take more than that to kill him," she answered with disinterest as the group heard the bang of Bob finally crashing on the lower level of the palace. "All right, let's follow. He's waiting for us down there." Sofia looked at Perith, wondering if he was going to fit in the small hole, before she was reminded that he could now alter his size at will. "Crap! I might be the one who's going to have trouble fitting. Oh wait, no, I'm slimmer in my demon form, easy to forget that. With how natural it still feels despite the change I could almost forget I'm transformed." Crisis averted. Sofia jumped into the hole, lighting the way for the others. She slowed the fall with her wings, even if she barely had space to open them a little, and landed near the satisfied-looking sunless. Iwara slid down the shadows on the walls, while Cynthia and Everell just jumped one after the other, landing heavily at the bottom. Meanwhile Perith took the short way and teleported right up to Sofia with Bookie holding his hand. The fall had taken them to the center of a domed circular hall plunged in darkness. There were 8 stone coffins adorned with writings in an unknown language mounted on the walls, and messy-looking ritual circles drawn on the floor. Of course no obvious exit in sight. "I wonder what these rituals do. But they're so crooked. We really owe the Avians a lot for how much they modernized this stuff. This is unreadable." Among the very few things that stood out in the room, the unlit torches on the walls seemed to have attracted Everly's attention. "We should try to light the torches," she confidently suggested. "Worst case it's more light, best case. You'll see." "Is that your dungeon core instinct talking, Eve?" Iwara asked. "My hero knowledge, more like. I wouldn't be able to explain, but yet. I wanna do it," Bookie excitedly said, jumping up and down, and Sofia mentally gave him the go. Holding up his left hand, a thin stream of fire spewed out from Bookie's glove, lighting up one of the room's 8 torches. He immediately stopped there as the other torches and the ritual on the floor all lit up at once in unison, with loud noises coming from the coffins in the walls. Sofia stood ready to dispel any harmful magic with heat death, and everyone got ready to face whatever was coming. Slowly, 7 of the 8 coffins opened, and Sofia felt her senses get distorted. She couldn't see the rest of the room very clearly, all of a sudden, and her gaze was like sucked in by what came out of the coffin. "Clarice," she whispered. The familiar woman, once head matron of Sofia's orphanage, made her way down from the coffin with difficulty. "Sofia." Clarice exclaimed, looking weak and struggling to even stand up correctly, is that you? Where have you been? What? What have you done? She asked, clear worry in her voice. Sofia stared at her without a word. Are the others also going through this? I thought only one hollow grief could exist at a time. Sofia's emotions welled up in her chest as Clarice drew closer. In her demon form, she could not cry. You're so cruel, Mom. Sofia slowly walked up to the stumbling woman. She knew she might get attacked, but she didn't care, she had 3 unlife runes up anyway. I'm sorry, Clarice. Sorry? Don't be sorry, you built a new life for yourself, didn't you? That's all I ever wished for you, Sofia, Clarice answered with a weak smile. Stopping a few steps away from Sofia, she extended her arms for a hug. Why do you look so sad? Come, I'll give you a hug just like when you were a child. Let Auntie Clarice comfort you. Sofia couldn't bear to look any longer, she stared at the floor. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, Sofia whispered, her voice weak and heavy, it's my fault you died. I'm sorry. Sofia walked forward into Clarice's hug, she held the frail and delicate woman, feeling weaker than ever, and bracing for a surprise attack. But there was nothing of the sort, Clarice simply reciprocated the hug, tightly holding Sofia and caressing the base of her wings. Sofia could feel the woman's warmth and the beating of her calm heart, like a club hammering her sanity with every beat. I'm sure you did the best you could, Sofia. You changed so much, I'm happy for you, Clarice whispered in Sofia's embrace. After a while, Clarice pulled away. All right now, be a big girl. I know you were always somewhat of a klutz, but there are people waiting for you. You can't stay with me. I know. I'm sorry, Clarice. I'll avenge you. I swore it. If it makes you happy, Clarice answered with a shining smile, don't ruin your life for those of us that are already gone, all right, dot. Clarice then crossed her arms in front of her chest, held her head up high, and closed her eyes. Now kill me, you need to. I feared it would come to that. Is there no other way? Sofia asked, knowing full well that there was no bringing back the real Clarice no matter what. Clarice shook her head, I'm not real, Sofia. Just an echo of your past and sorrows. The soul of Clarice has long faded and returned to nature. But I am glad I could share that little time with you either way. Come now, make it quick, agonizing over this will do you no good, the thing taking the form of Clarice peacefully said with a serene voice. Sofia heaved a long and dreary sigh. She walked up to the woman and took her in her embrace again. Thank you for everything, Clarice, Sofia whispered softly, say hi to the kids for me. Sofia's nail gently pierced the back of Clarice's neck. Bone Dominus severed her spine at the base in a clean and painless break, and Sofia's demon form magic activated. Blood spread over Clarice's chest from below her clothes, and she started to disappear, becoming translucent. While she faded, her smile never did. The open tomb crumbled, and Sofia could finally perceive the rest of the room correctly again as she fell to her knees. Perith and Bookie ran to her side, they were the only 2 others awake, everyone else was standing in a daze, even the small sunless architect. Sofia. Are you all right? What happened? Bookie worriedly asked, hugging her from behind. Nothing. Nothing. Don't worry about it, she answered with a sigh, did nothing happen to you and Perith? Not me, but Perith was stunned like everyone else for a few seconds. Bookie recounted, I was very worried. I couldn't even go close to anyone or return to you. I didn't know what to do. But Brother Perith woke up fast and told me to wait. He told you? Sofia repeated, turning her head toward Perith. Well. He made me understand, Bookie clarified. Are the others going to wake up soon? That depends entirely on them, Sofia answered. But truly nothing happened to you? No? The tomb opened, so I was getting ready to fight. I was going to freeze whatever monster came to attack us to death. Bookie enthusiastically proclaimed, but then nothing came out. And then I looked around and you were all. Nothing came out? Taking a look around, 7 of the 8 tombs had opened, 1 for each person present, but only Bookie had been unaffected somehow. Is he because he knows no sorrow? Then nothing happens? Or could it be the illusion tried to take the appearance of the orator? Ahem. Are you all right, Sorrow? I'm going to need to check with Cynthia. Sofia decided to hug Perith and Bookie while she waited for the others to wake up. They were still made of bones, but to Sofia, their embrace was warm and soft. Chapter 527 Reminiscence. Surprisingly enough, the next one to break out of the illusion was Bob. Looking like he did not quite understand what was happening to him, the Sunless then took a look around before walking up to Sofia's group and sitting there next to them. "Are you doing good, Bob?" Sofia asked, uncertain of whether Everly's Sunless could even understand the common language or not. Bob turned in Sofia's direction when she said Bob, but that was all she got for an answer. "Oh well. The others will be out soon." Iwara shook off the illusion soon after, starting to stretch after he quickly glanced around to check how everyone else was. This was certainly something, he finally said, a bittersweet moment to be remembered. "How do you fare?" he asked Sofia while he walked up to Everell to check on her. "I have conflicted feelings. Such is often the case when one confronts their past. You are young still, Lady Sofia, one learns to accept and work with these emotions, eventually. Although they never quite disappear. Perhaps discussing what we saw would help you sort out your feelings." That might be an idea," Sofia accepted without thinking. "I see you are more shaken than you let on. Well, let me start, in this case. Hopefully it will help distract your thoughts. Do you remember the story of my empire?" Iwara asked. "Of course, though you never said much. It was somewhere north of Exodia, right?" Iwara paced around the room as he recounted his story. "Indeed. Though the Exodians had yet to settle in those plains, back then. I was second in command, the Empress' right hand, so to say, a demon and a woman ruling a vast land in the desert and jungle. Empress Swali was my closest friend and confidant for hundreds of years. We sought to discover the path to ascension together. It did not end well." "Is that who you saw? That must have been difficult." "It was a welcome sight, in a way," Iwara admitted, his tone a bit shaky, though his expression was obscured by his shade physique. Sofia could feel the pain in his voice. "The last I saw of her before was not a pleasant sight. She had already been in a bad state before my own unfortunate passing. And with the war. It is no wonder that our empire fell. Sometimes I wish I could have preserved her soul like I did mine, but alas, our great merciful mother's power is precious and limited." "You died before her? Is there no chance that she survived, then?" "No," Iwara decisively answered, shaking his head, "she was a loyal and dedicated ruler. If Eocht fell, she fell with it. For her citizens, she would have fought until her last breath, of that I have not the faintest sliver of doubt." Bookie stood up, wanting to say something. "Do you not want to take revenge for her or your empire, Senior Iwara?" "Aha! No, young man, there is no vengeance to be had here. Vengeance rarely bears fruit, to begin with, but in this case, we have only ourselves to blame for our empire's falling. Or am I to hunt the remote descendants of the savage tribes that once sought us gone from their jungle?" "Oh! But I want to avenge Sofia's friends," Bookie muttered. Iwara walked up to the short skeleton, putting a shadowy hand on his skull. "Vengeance rarely bears fruit, boy. But sometimes it does," he said, a wicked smile in his voice, "and what better than a few divine artifacts to contend with a god, wouldn't you agree?" Bookie nodded and walked back to Sofia. "Sofia. I'll get all the divine artifacts for you," he announced proudly. "Ahaha. Thanks, Bookie. I'm sure you will. But for now, can you summon Crowy?" Sofia played with the small bird to distract herself while she recounted her experience with Clarice to Iwara. "Truth is, I was going to go crazy if I didn't cut it short," Sofia finished her story. "The ways of life," Iwara said with a sigh, "if we live long lives, people close to us are sure to pass at some point. As painful as it is, I, personally, am happy I can remember them. Things can never be as they were, but the memories stay." Cynthia woke up next, her face covered in tears, eventually explaining that she had seen a childhood friend without saying more. Everyone was getting worried for Everell, as she had already been there for more than half an hour and still showed no signs of waking up, but she finally regained her senses at last, showing no visible emotion. "Did I make you wait?" were her first words for the group. "It's fine. I needed some time anyway," Sofia answered. Iwara approached Everell. "Are you holding up?" "Thank Iwa, I'll be fine. Had a lot of time there to think things through. I never expected to see my dad again. It was a dead giveaway that there was something wrong when he instantly recognized me like this, not to mention the other things. But I wanted to spend some time with him anyway. I'm good to go now. Bob wasn't a bother, I hope. He's just been sitting there, playing with Crowy, Sofia said with a shrug. She had let Crowy down at some point and somehow it had ended up in Bob's spindly black arms. All right, well, time to come rest, Bob, say goodbye to Crowy for now, Everell told the sunless architect. Bob seemed reluctant to let Crowy go and Everell unsummoned him, a small piece of sunless debris flying from his disappearing body to her hand. Where to now? They're all staying silent in the chat now, Cynthia said, they only sent donations and face like death. Lots of viewers? Sofia asked. Fluctuates a lot today. Only 6 right now. I'm sure it'll go up when we're close to the end. Any reactions from the traps IWA? Sofia continued. None. It's safe to say no one entered, or if they did, they have the capabilities of an adult dragon or are an expert in the field of bypassing traps and alarms, Iwara confidently assured everyone. Let's get going then. I've already found the way forward, Sofia said, walking up to the open tomb which had been the one that opened for Bob. Her mana senses had picked up a weird disturbance there as soon as she had woken up, and deducted that it was probably some sort of optical illusion. She just walked through the back which led to a long and narrow unlit corridor. The group was rather silent as they advanced through the winding corridor that took turn after turn through the bowels of Sorrow's palace, until Everell broke the silence. First a riddle, then a mental trial, I wonder if we're up for a fight next. Could be some sort of labyrinth too, considering how this corridor is starting to look. Please no. I seriously hope you're wrong, Sofia complained, I know you're the dungeon expert here but I've had my share of labyrinths for this life and the next. Aha. Sorry about that. It's just a classic, you know. Labyrinth, trapped doors, scorpion pits. There might not have been any actual dungeons back in my old world but we certainly had them in fiction. Just a pain that the censor always stops us from sharing that in detail. I guess they don't want heroes to impact Valyandran's culture too much, Everell explained. And the dungeons here are like the ones from the fiction in your world? Bookie asked while turning around and walking backwards to look at Everell. Kind of. At least my class is heavily inspired by it. Saria's too, from what I could tell. Whoa. Did they have skeletons? Bookie asked next. Very often, actually. Even if necromancy wasn't actually a thing back there, it was quite popular in books and stuff. They were usually the bad guys, though. If it's anything like necromancy here, unsurprising, Iwara commented, though we are lucky to have sane necromancers around now, this hasn't always been the case throughout history, he said like he just remembered something unpleasant. Had some bad necromancers in your empire? Sofia asked. One witnesses all kinds of things when they oversee a few million humans. From turning to necromancy to try to bring back loved ones to using said loved ones to further their necromancy. I myself have unclean hands, necromancy being part of Sorrow's domain, let us simply say that our empire's soldiers were not free of the battlefield even in death. Well. Necromancy is necromancy all right, Sofia commented, I like to think that I am using it as ethically as I can. I've yet to murder anyone for their skeleton. If ogres don't count. Ah, wait, stop here. Everell warned, not to interrupt, but I found something. Not sure if it's a secret path or a trap, though, but look how this brick on the wall sticks out a bit. Typical dungeon design right there. Chapter 528, Dungeon Banter. Sofia and Iwara both failed at telling if this was a trap or not, all they could tell was that the protruding brick could indeed be pushed into the wall, but not what it was going to do. I have to hand it to whichever of Sorrow's old worshippers who designed this place, the security is top-notch. Even by blasting mana into the walls I can't feel crap, Sofia said as she stood with an ear on the wall, trying to see if she could hear anything. Powerful sorcerers used to be few and far between before my time but it would be remiss of us to think them incompetent. Arguably, most of today's treasures date back to humanity's golden age, even before my time, Iwara explained. And where are these powerful sorcerers right now? Everell questioned. Truth be told, I have no idea. Some might be dead, for sure, others have likely become recluse, hermits buried deep under the surface in hidden places like this one, he explained. Well, Richard sounds old enough. I'm not sure but I think from context clues, he should be around the same age as Aredes or older, so in the 15,000s, Sofia guessed, so some do walk the surface still, even if you only count humans. But you really think there might be someone here? It is certainly not an impossibility, Iwara said with a shrug. I am relatively sure, now, that this was designed as a true trial to gauge whether we are deserving of the artifact or not. Whoever did so was undoubtedly invested in their faith at least as much as I am, so staying, or at the very least leaving a guardian behind is not so far-fetched. Well, we'll find out soon enough. We need to deal with that brick, though, Everell pointed out. Right, Cynthia agreed, everyone's looking intently. So something is sure to happen. Hard to tell what. Fine, take your distances guys, I will push it. Got my unlife runes up anyway, I'll be fine. The group listened and all walked past Sofia in the narrow corridor, except for Perith who chose to return to her bone storage, just in case. A light press, and the brick entered the wall with a click, which was followed by mechanical sounds. Definitely gears in there, Sofia notified the others, nothing seems to be happening, though. Sofia, Cynthia said, look below. Sofia looked down, the floor behind her feet had disappeared, leading into a deep pit full of spikes. Since Sofia often actually walked on the air just above the ground rather than the ground itself, for practical reasons, she hadn't even felt the change, which had also been silent. The one blind spot in my demon form field of view. My fused passive skill saved me from a bad fall. Kind of. Sofia remarked as she observed the pit. Wait. These are regular iron spikes. They're not rusty but this shit wouldn't even pierce my regular skin, let alone in my apostle form. Give me a second, I'm going down to investigate. Everell walked up to the hole as Sofia slowly walked down as if on invisible stairs. Damn, you can see in there? All sunless have a very good night vision but this is dark, looks like there's some obscuring magic. Demons are just superior, I guess, Sofia said as she made her way down past the first rows of spikes, observing the pit. Touching the tip of one of the spikes with her palm, she pushed, and the thick iron spike bent under her the pressure, failing to even nick the skin of her palm. The hell? This can't seriously be a trap meant to injure an apostle of sorrow. She thinks the spikes are too weak, Sofia heard Bookie say to the others from above. Ah, I didn't even realize I was letting you hear this stuff, Bookie, just a reflex to think louder when Perith is in storage to keep him informed. Well, you can keep the others up to date for me I guess. Let's see if I find anything other than spikes down there. The pit was quite deep for a random trap, a good 30 meters down before Sofia found herself walking on the lowest row of upwards pointing spikes. There was nothing obvious there, and of course, the magic preventing her mana senses from picking up anything past the walls was still very much in place. There has to be something, this is too weird. After 20 seconds of careful inspections, she found the thing, another strange brick in the wall, between two rows of spikes. This time it was not protruding, but slightly recessed. All hail the recessed brick, the divinity of bad architecture. Sofia thought, cackling by herself at the bottom of the pit, and making sure not to let Bookie hear her dumb joke. She pushed on the brick, and it simply fell inside of the wall, leaving a small brick-shaped hole behind. Sofia bent the spikes in the way to get closer and stick her face in front of the opening. There's a treasure chest hidden in the wall. Sofia yelled for the others to hear above. Be careful, could be a mimic. Everell shouted back. I'd be happy it was. Sofia answered, dreaming of feeding Bookie another swift chest skeleton. You're fucking weird. Everell answered back. Said you. Forget it, I'm not helping if you get gobbled up. Sofia snorted with laughter as she used summon self to teleport through the gap and into the minuscule room where she barely had space to stand in front of the small wooden chest. Let's see what we have here. Sofia lightly poked the chest with her dagger, leaving a small dent. Ah! Not a mimic. She pried open the chest, which wasn't locked, but sprayed a cloud of thick mist at her face in retaliation. Oh, so it was trapped. Sofia smelled the mist, which felt familiar. Hey, that smells like one of those neurotoxins I used to train the venerable physique. That was one of the plant extracts, I think. Nice flowery smell. I kind of like it. Let's see what else this has to offer. The contents of the chest were wrapped inside of a silk cloth. They were 6 opaque ball-shaped flasks covered in messy runic inscriptions. They were accompanied by a tiny wooden plaque engraved with a few words written in ancient human. Ugh, I wish this was draconic instead, would be easier to translate. Alright. Ha. Has. Hast oh, no, that's the other form. Xleratium. Acceleratium potion. Become? Bakar, oh, be careful, risk of overdose. Sofia took one of the flasks, and gently broke the rune-inscribed wax seal around the opaque glass cork. She looked inside the flask. Is this stuff still good, even? How many thousands of years has it been buried here? The liquid was pale green like a dried leaf and had a strong herbal smell. Sofia dipped the tip of one of her long pointy claws inside to taste the potion. It had a very weak taste, but she clearly felt something happening to her, though it was short-lived, a fleeting feeling likely due to the small dose. It's like the opposite of moonspring water. Maybe I should identify it. Could have done that before tasting it. Concentrated Acceleratium flask, powerful but short-lasting, an old classic that has often been overlooked due to its annoying side effects. Increases speed, thinking speed, and reduces friction. Can be drunk or thrown at a target. You're going to mention annoying side effects but not say what? Also thrown? Questions. Sofia brought the flasks back up, and no one had ever heard of the old classic Acceleratium. Since Sofia was the one who took the risk with the traps, the others let her choose what to do with the potions. She ended up giving one to Iwara and one to Cynthia, keeping two for herself, one of which was for Alith to reverse engineer, and the last two were for Everell, since she had been the one to notice the suspicious brick in the first place after Sofia had missed it. If everyone is fine with this, let's keep going, Sofia said after giving out the potions. Honestly, I don't even think I deserve to get one. But thank you, Cynthia admitted while storing her flask. You're here so you're entitled to your share. Won't be the same for the divine artifact, though, Sofia answered. It's fine, I'm sure you would come with me if I ever wanted to go find an old artifact myself and needed help, Cynthia continued with a smile. True, Sofia answered, and Saria would probably gut me alive if I didn't. Everell stood with her arms crossed. Do you even still have guts? She asked, her pendant eye narrowing to a line. Sofia looked down at her own belly, past the gaping hole in her chest. Well, I have a few internal organs left, even in demon form. I do have a small stomach-like cavity in there, so that kinda counts. Do you even ever need to take a shit anymore? Everell pressed her, almost cackling. Do you? I don't even have a proper face, so. Anyway. Exploring the dungeon, am I right? Aha. You should all be on the lookout for stuff like that protruding brick. If there's one treasure in the wall, there's likely more. Chapter 529, I wish I would have done things differently. The layout of this place is quite something, Everell commented as the group took another turn which revealed more of the same long and narrow corridor. They had been following that single long and winding corridor for a few hours now, making slow progress as they needed to check for traps, of which there were actually a few dangerous ones here and there. We should be almost at the end, Sofia said, I've just realized, but the corridor is actually some kind of ritual circle layout, I think. It wasn't too obvious since all the corridors are straight with right angles, but it sure is starting to look like it, she explained as she took a tiny three-dimensional bone map of what the group had explored until now out of her armor. Everell stopped in her tracks. Whoa, where the heck have you been hiding that? Usually as long as things are peaceful, I'd sculpt a map holding it in my left hand like I did back in your dungeon, but since I have a convenient hole in my chest right now. See, that's the bottom layer we're on. It's weird to see a square ritual circle, but that's what it is it not? It is indeed reminiscent of some kind of ritual, Iwara analyzed, observing Sofia's map, however. I doubt it would be functional as is. We would probably need to circularize it, first. Flooding these corridors with mana might still do the trick. At such a scale the cleanliness of the shape loses importance. We don't have that much mana, that would take forever. Let's just get to the end and see then. Trying to activate a ritual circle we don't know the effects of is a risky thing to do in the first place, Cynthia said, trying to be the voice of reason. Would not be my first time, Sofia snarked, but I agree, and we won't have the full ritual until we find the end of that corridor anyway, so it's not like we could try it right now. Still, that at least explains the dungeon's strange layout. And with this, we should almost be back to where we started, Sofia said, extending her bone map up to the corner the group arrived to. Looks like a dead end ahead, Cynthia observed as they all took yet another turn. That's an illusory wall just like the one we entered through, Sofia immediately noticed, if my map is correct. We're back to the illusion room with the tombs. I only saw one illusory wall back then, so. This must be in the one unopened tomb. Ah, so there's a chance we'll get to see what's inside before it pulls one of us into an illusion, Everell noted. I doubt it, Iwara disagreed. The tombs were most likely always empty. The illusions I would wager were a product of the ritual embedded in the flooring of that room. We'll know for sure soon enough. I'm going first, just in case, Sofia said quickly, walking past Iwara and Parath. Stepping through the illusory wall, it appeared that she was right. This was the inside of the one still closed tomb. It was empty, aside from her, and Sofia opened it with a kick, shattering the cover and revealing the same room they had departed from hours prior. It's safe, she told the others behind. Man. If I had known this corridor was going to loop, I could have just sent Crowe to quickly map it out. The others stepped out of the tomb one by one, following Sofia, Everell commenting that they would not have found the potions had they let a skeleton do the exploring. Still feels like a waste of time, but I guess you're right. At least we already figured out how to proceed. I'm betting we just need to round off that ritual circle, and activating it should reveal the way forward, Sofia guessed. Likely, Everell agreed. We should let IWA do the thing. Certainly. Lady Sofia, may I? Here's the map, Sofia answered with a shrug, giving him the bone construct. Iwara grabbed the map and a piece of charcoal from his storage, and used it to draw on one of the room's walls, starting with the ritual's outer circle and slowly filling it in toward the center. This process might take several tries, Iwara commented as he drew, turning squares to circles. Approximations need to be made. Everyone intently watched the shade draw on the wall when Iwara stopped halfway through. Something wrong? Everell asked. Quite the contrary, Iwara said, wiping away a small part of what he had already drawn, and drawing over it in a slightly different way. He started drawing out the entire rest of the ritual without looking at the map a single time. You already knew the ritual? Sofia asked. In a way, yes. I am familiar with it, Iwara answered, giving the bone map back to Sofia as he put the finishing touches to the intricate ritual circle on the wall. What is it? Bookie asked next, full of curiosity. No need to ask me, Iwara answered playfully, looking in Sofia's direction. What? Me? I have no idea, honestly. It's obviously a ritual circle, but I can't recognize a single familiar ritual module in there. You have yet to realize, for you rarely get to spend a long time in your apostle form, but this should be something you are also familiar with, Iwara explained. The apostle FO. Ooh. Give me a second, Sofia then said, unceremoniously sitting on the cold stone floor and closing her eyes. The veins of the demon form take the shape of many interconnected ritual circles. They are made of light now, but their shape hasn't changed in the slightest. Sofia felt her own mana circuits, slowly observing the entirety of her interior. The demon form's limbs were mostly home to their respective spells, while the torso was largely occupied by body enhancement passive magic. Sofia analyzed her circuitry one layer after the other, sometimes opening her eyes and looking at the wall to remind herself of the shape she was looking for. Finally, she found it, in the middle of her neck, the exact same vein configuration as the drawing Iwara had scribbled on the wall. Sofia took another look at her map, and compared it with that inner ritual circle. You're right, Sofia said to Iwara, this is it. No doubt. This is one of the natural mana pathways we have as apostles of sorrow, Sofia explained for the others, though I still have no idea what this one does. Let me enlighten you, then, Iwara offered. This particular arrangement is the centerpiece of the greater pathway stack within our necks. While it produces no spell, it is an integral part in letting us tap into and utilize the energy of sorrow, he explained. That's great, but it's not helping with our situation, Everell commented. Maybe try activating it while standing in the middle of the room or something. It is more of a passive and cannot really be activated, Iwara clarified. But have you tried? Everell continued. Who in their right mind would heedlessly flood passive pathways with mana? That is asking for a violent backlash and permanent inner scars, Iwara answered, but perhaps you might be onto something, Eve. Let me try, Sofia immediately offered, thinking that she had the scepter to absorb backlash anyway. Following Everly's suggestion, she went to the middle of the room before she started controlling her mana to converge toward her neck. She started immediately feeling nauseous. Iwara was right, forcing more mana than intended inside of passive pathways was asking for trouble. It felt like having one's blood start flowing in reverse. Sofia's health started to decline, dropping by the thousands for every second she kept pushing more mana toward her neck, as the inner turmoil started to spread throughout the rest of her body. Don't harm yourself, Sofia. Bookie pleaded, seeing her face contort from the pain, but she carried on, pumping more and more mana toward her neck, and toward that mana pathway in particular. Something was happening. The mana flew in reverse through her neck before being sent chaotically all over her body, and she could start to tell that this was going somewhere. With Sofia's health dropping under 30%, her skin started to crack, a gentle light flowing from within. This was just one of her Lumion racial passives starting to activate, and it almost made Sofia stop, as she half convinced herself that this was what she had felt was coming. I can still push further. More and more mana flooded Sofia's neck as her health dwindled, and with an internal bang, the entire flow of her mana flipped around. The pain and strange sensations were all gone in an instant. As she was still trying to understand what that meant, and while the others were asking if Sofia was all right, a hole appeared in the floor underneath her, but due to the peculiarities of the Lumion's Pillar of Creation racial passive, she could not move even if she wanted to while at such low health. Sofia dismissed her unlife runes to let her blessed bone constructs heal her while she explained to the others what had just happened, and urged Iwara to do the same. I am shocked beyond words, Iwara commented half a minute later, as his mana rippled through his body in reverse, while Sofia was right about fully healed. He was flabbergasted to only learn about the secret functions of his body now, in his second life. You may be letting me have the artifact, but you're not going to leave empty-handed, Sofia answered with a toothy smile. It might not have been evident for anyone else, but to an apostle, they had a natural understanding of the magic within their body, save for this tiny secret function. The reversal of the mana flow did one simple thing that was easy to understand. It completely turned off the possibility of using the 5 demon form spells of sorrow, instead repurposing each and every single bit of their mana circuits into body enhancement magic. A secret juggernaut mode. Although it was hard to quantify, Sofia felt that she was at least twice as strong physically. My health hasn't changed, but I feel like my defenses should have gone up significantly. And it feels like I can get the spells back by doing the same thing. This is crazy. Are there other secrets the demon form is hiding? Is this a thing all apostles can do? Cynthia's sweet voice interrupted Sofia's thoughts. Hey. Sorrow has a message for you too, she told Sofia and Iwara. Chapter 530, Let Thy Sorrow Flourish. Nothing is ever accomplished without leaving something behind, Cynthia read out loud for Sofia and Iwara. Not what I expected, Sofia commented, but it is fitting, and always true. No matter what, you're always spending time, at the very least. This wisdom is to be used for the next part, I would suppose, Iwara deduced. Let us get to it. I'm just debating whether I want to continue like this or revert to having my apostle spells, Sofia said, looking down at the hole below her. Iwara laughed. Perhaps we ought to leave our spells behind, for now, don't you think? Well, no reason to rush things, though. Give me time to carve an unlife rune, at least. Something big is probably coming relatively soon, Cynthia commented as her eyes were fixated on her invisible chat window. More of them are starting to watch. We have 10 already. I would have thought the corridor walking simulator would have killed viewership, Everell said. Maybe we're finally getting some real action. It's been so long since I've needed to use my signature skill, this is kinda getting me excited. You never told us what it was, Cynthia remarked. IWA knows, but well. You'll get to see at some point, Everell said with a shrug. Right, you said before that I had no chance against you, what about now? Sofia asked Everell. From what I know, it would definitely be a close fight. You definitely have the advantage in terms of rare equipment and skills, but I also have had a few boring 100 years to train by myself on Fenrir, and not to toot my own horn, but I'm no weakling. So hard to be sure. We might be evenly matched, Everell admitted. Are you counting my summons in your calculations? I counted Bookie and Perith fighting with you, yes. Not IWA and Alith, even if they are, you know. Yeah fair, that's how I would have done it too. So you think that big white-eyed sunless of yours could contend with Perith as he is now? Would be a stalemate, in my opinion, Everell answered, but it's pointless to go too far on hypotheticals, we might as well just fight and see for ourselves, right? I'm sure that would get a lot of viewers, Cynthia said from the side. Got 2 more while you were chatting, too, so we might really get a fight sooner rather than later. Let's do that when we're back from this trip, then, Sofia offered. It's a deal. Jumping down the hole led the group to a small room with a closed door and an old metallic central pedestal. More ancient human language, Sofia commented as she read the inscriptions on the pedestal. There was a handprint on top of the thing with a few words below. Let go of what you know, it were read without difficulty. So Mom's message definitely was about this room, no doubt. Let go of what we know. Does it expect me to forget a skill? One of the apostle skills, maybe. Forgetting a spell. It might be that simple, but it might not. Let me try something. Iwara placed a hand on the handprint, and Sofia could feel an exchange of mana between the shade and the metallic structure. It is just that, he finally declared, this will forcefully erase whatever spell pathway you lead the magic from this pedestal to. Devices like these used to be rather commonplace, but now the system makes such a thing pointless. It should be able to erase even those locked skills, but I would advise against it unless said skill is purely detrimental to you, as it would leave permanent scars. So I really need to forget a skill to open the door. I may do that in your place, if you wish, Lady Sofia, Iwara offered, however, I doubt it would work for anything but us two. Makes sense. I'll do it, no need to sacrifice yourself for me, Sofia decisively told Iwara, I'm getting the artifact, so this is only right. Any other time I might try to cheat my way out of having to pay something like this by breaking the door or something, but I get the feeling that this is exactly why Sorrow took the time to have Cynthia send us the message earlier. Sofia placed her hand on the pedestal, and she felt a surge of destructive magic coming toward her from within the metallic structure. After spending a few seconds making sure she could control the flow of said magic, she sent it toward a thin but quite widespread mana pathway, the one from her racial skill Pillar of Creation. According to Astelia, this skill was the Lumian equivalent of the Vampire Curse, a necessary downside to the race's overall power. The destructive mana entered said mana pathways only to be pushed back by Sofia's own mana without her even being able to control it. No damage was done, she could tell. Figured it would be like this. Sofia opened up her skill list. Known skills. False Lord skills, 1/1. Singularity Edict. Active skills, 9/9. Spine of the Black Sun, level 249. Summon Blood, level 249. Maiden Banshee, level 249, LV.250. Graveyard of the Righteous, level 249. False Immortality, level 3. Skull Choir, level 249. Reign over Shadows. Saintess Madness, level 2. Aberrant Sunlight. Passive skills, 8/8. Blessing of the Deep, 2/4. Valkyria's Rehofen of Sorrow. Exalted Exoskeleton. Venerable Physique of the Primeval Void, Peak of Light Forging Realm. Bone Dominus Imperium, level 3. Iridian Rot. Runeforged Overlord, level 249. Classless skills, 7/7. Dreams of a Demon Which Gods Envy, March of the Envoy. Summon Self, level 48. Mana Manipulation. Radiance, level 100. Quintessential. One with Suffering. Crystallized. Racial skills, 3. Edgewalker. Pillar of Creation. Mockery of the Divine. Special skills, 1. The Book of Skeletons. Wildcasts. Identify. Undead Light. Angel's Bolt, Explosive. Angel's Bolt, Piercing. Call Elemental Sprite. Since this is a pre-system machine, I'm guessing forgetting one of the wildcast spells should also work. So what to do? I see 5 options. Spine of the Black Sun has been underwhelming as it requires me to be close to the target, so it definitely needs some work, at least. Not sure that warrants a delete, though. Especially now that I can sustain it for basically no cost, it's just a free magical weapon. Saintess Madness has been useful a few times, but even with the level 2 options to choose one variant in advance, it's still only good once per fight. And it requires me to sacrifice a skeleton. It's not a bad skill at all, but it's not the best either. Summon Self is nice to have, but the 30 seconds cooldown time and the short range make it just another tool in the toolbox. In terms of fighting, often just flying away from an attack is the better move. It was a pain to learn, though, and is my only teleportation skill. Radiance is. All it does really is boost the healing of the Bone Dominus blessed constructs. It's really not that impressive in terms of overall utility, but also doubled healing is pretty good. I can't argue with that. And last on the list is Call Elemental Sprite, it's really not all that useful at all in most situations. I can count on one hand the number of times I've actually used the sprites for something other than a convenient light source. But I've kind of grown attached to the glowing balls. I don't really want to get rid of them. I'm getting rid of Saintess madness, Sofia finally said after a bit, placing her hand on the pedestal again. She led the destructive mana to the skill's pathways, and in just a few seconds, it was completely destroyed. The process felt a bit like getting scratched from the inside, it was strange but not unbearable. Without any fanfare, the skill simply disappeared from Sofia's status window, and the remaining possible skill slots count went back up from 2 to 3. The door opened as soon as the skill was gone, revealing another similar room with another pedestal, on which, this time, was a small golden bowl. I don't like where this is going. Iwara was quick to enter the new room and to read the inscriptions on the pedestal. Let go of what you value, he said. Everyone entered the room, and they expectantly looked at Sofia. We don't expect that it will open if I give it a few bones and gold coins. Sofia tried. After it forced you to forget a skill before. Everell said, no chance. But it probably won't hurt to try. Unless you get a single shot at opening the door, but that would be bad dungeon design, though. I'll make a serious offer, then, Sofia said after some reflection, and she piled a small stack of orichalcum ingot in the bowl. Taxes says you're being cheap, Cynthia remarked with a giggle. There aren't so many truly precious things I'm willing to part with, Sofia answered in a low voice. She tried a few more things, but frustratingly, for anything she was fine with leaving behind the door stubbornly stayed closed. Finally she gave up, and threw the dead Mithrium ring in the bowl. The pedestal instantly retracted into the ground, swallowing the Mithrium ring into the entrails of Sorrow's palace, and the door opened without a sound. The only bit of Mithrium I had. It would not be a surprise for the divine artifact to be made of Mithrium or something of similar value, Iwara commented, this is but a temporary loss. I fear you might yet have to give up something else, however. Of course. The next room was more of the same, a pedestal with an inscription, but on top was the sculpture of an open hand with sharp claws just like Sofia's. Let go of your regrets, Iwara translated. This one is not quite as obvious, Everell commented. It isn't, Sofia agreed, but maybe. Sofia extended a hand, she linked fingers with the hand on top of the pedestal, and suddenly her surroundings became dark. Familiar feeling. Another illusion. Parith is still right next to me so I haven't moved. It's eerily silent here. What's going to happen? Do I need to do something? After a few more seconds of silence, blurry shapes started appearing, slowly, they formed a distant yet familiar scenery. Something straight out of Sofia's faintest and oldest memories. Sofia's perception warped in strange ways, she started to see and feel things that she knew were fake but looked and felt painfully real. Wooden ceiling, heavy purple curtains blocking the sun from entering the dusty room. Someone she couldn't see rocked the crib Sofia was half asleep in, singing her a sweet lullaby.